All right, well, once again, welcome everybody. Today, I'm going to be teaching a lovely class for you. I think you'll get something out of it for sure. This is for if you have any type of easy series or Estey product by Lowry. There's the Easy 1, Easy 2, Easy 3, Easy 4. There's a bunch of them. Easy 10. And then there's also something right above that called a fanfare or journey. If you have one of those as well, this is great too. As well as the SD Discovery 3 and SD Freedom 3. So a whole bunch of coverage today we're going to go over here. But what I'm planned to do for you is I'm going to do what's called a walk up the line, where that's just when we take as many instruments as we can, and kind of walk up the line, up the Lowrys or Estes. So I'll go over a bunch of different things, starting with, I'm backwards here, with the Easy 2 here is what I have in the room. I have an Easy 2, an Easy 4 over here, and I will travel that away in a little while for some more. Got some more stuff over there. So let's start simply here. What I'm going to talk to you about in the beginning, first off, is one of my favorite things to ask our students is, this is interactive here. You're welcome to unmute here. So my question for you is when you have somebody over at the house or something like that and you play for somebody, what do you call this at your house? You say, let me show you my beautiful, what do you call it?
Virtual orchestra.
I knew you'd answer that. You always get that one right.
How you doing,
Perfect.
Sean?
Great. That's wonderful because that is exactly what it's called. It's called a virtual, oops, sorry, pushed the wrong button there. It's called a virtual orchestra. The reason for that is very simple. They came out of organs. You might call them an organ. Some people say that, but I like to think it's a lot more than that, because when you play, do you hear an organ all the time? I see heads shaking. No, because a lot of the time you'll hear things like trumpets and saxophones and guitars and pianos and drums, all this stuff. It's a virtual orchestra, and your position in that virtual orchestra is, I know Hal knows for sure.
Yeah. Conductor.
Conductor, yes, exactly. Conductor, or I would accept band leader as well. That's really important to know because sometimes you'll get something like this and you'll start playing and you'll say, yeah, I'm not sounding right. This band's going too fast. I just can't play it, I guess. But no, you're the band leader. You tell them what to do. So you got to keep that in mind. So I'm going to come over here to our Easy 2. Pardon me while I slide this thing around. Hopefully, oh my gosh, you guys have no idea. This room I'm in right now, I have cables everywhere. So I know I'm going to trip it and fall at some point, but just enjoy it if that happens. I think it'll be fun, so that's okay. Okay, so here's what I have right in front of me. I think that's probably good enough there. This is called the Easy 2, and what I'm going to do is kind of show you how these work starting off. If you're brand new to the hobby, this is one of the best instruments ever made. There's also another new one called an SD Discovery 3. Equally just fantastic to start out with. The reason for that, as we do walk up the line here, you'll find the reason these are so good for if you've never played or if you're just maybe getting back to it, is it's very limited. There's not a lot you can do to sound bad, which is really important starting out. You don't want to sound bad or you're not going to play, right? So you want to sound good right off the bat. So what we do is on these instruments here, step by step, super easy. If you want to play a certain song, let's say we were talking about band leaders. One that I like a lot, he had a lot of different orchestras he played with, Frank Sinatra. There is actually a rhythm here. If I touch the standards button, poof, that's all I have to do. And I have Frank Sinatra and Count Basie's orchestra on my left hand here. All I have to do with my left hand is tell them what to do. So I conduct. So I'm going to tell Frank and the Count Basie, what chord to play, and then on my right hand over here, I get to sing. But luckily, I don't actually have to sing or everybody would leave. So you get to sing with your right hand. So just for example, I'm going to turn it on and use my virtual orchestra to play some Frank Sinatra. So all I did, touch standards, and then I can even give them a little introduction, which most of you I think know that by now, but here we go. Ready to sing? Change to something else. Ending. Love the endings. So it's just, can you guys hear that okay? I didn't get to check the sound earlier, so hopefully everything sounds okay. But so that is it. That's in a nutshell as easy as it gets. You pick a band, or what I like to say, you hire an orchestra, and you sing the song. You tell them what to do with your left hand, conduct, and sing with the right hand. Now, obviously, you have some other options here too. That was a big full band sound, right? You heard drums and all sorts of instruments in the background, saxophones, things like that, because it was a full orchestra. Now, if I want to, I have another option. Let me see if I can pull up a picture. Oh, I closed it. Here it is. Now, some of these instruments you'll find have some more options. Do you see that right there? That is my rhythm style panel. This is the most important part of any instrument, because this is where you get the, what I like to think of as the most, what's the word? Interactive, feeling when you play, because nobody wants to just sit and play by themselves with just one sound. It's like practicing a trumpet by yourself. It doesn't sound that interesting. You need somebody to play with. So what these are on the screen you see, those are our music styles. I just started with one called Standards. Now if I pick a different one, let's say Country, for example, I'm going to touch the Country button. Now this is what an easy 10 looks like, by the way. So if you have something like an easy 2 or 4, it might look a little different, and that's okay. But you should all have a button called Country. And what it does, even on a Estey, any of the Esteys, it just does the same thing. It gives you a full band, just like this. You can hear some drums in there, fiddles, slide guitars. That was the introduction, and then you play your song. Now, on the Easy series, and a lot of the instruments kind of above that, you have this section on the bottom. It says Performer. This is really, really neat. What you do is, if I want to play, let's say if I play a waltz, I'm gonna pick a 3/4 waltz, but instead of having a whole big full band play it, I can say I just want to pick the piano player. So if I just touch the pianist button right on the panel, pianist, I already have my waltz on, so it just, instead of hiring a whole band, I just get the one piano player. So it'll sound like this, just piano. So this is perfect if you've ever wanted to be a piano player. Now you can. Now they have another option where I can add drums in any time, right in the middle of your panel. It says volume. There's a picture of a drum set. So easy as that. If I want drums in there, I can have just piano and bring them in gradually. thank you. I see clapping. That's nice. But now what's great is you can be a piano player, a professional piano player. And like I said before, since it's a very simplified panel, simplified instrument, you're going to sound good. Even if you goof up a lot, I always say use the intros and endings, because if you maybe mess up the middle a little bit, as long as you start out sounding good and end sounding good, this middle part doesn't matter. You know, it's fine. So keep that in mind. You're gonna sound good. Now, there's another button, if you have anything from an easy 2 on up, called Guitarist, which I would guess probably does the same thing, right? Except, instead of hiring a piano player, it's going to be a guitar player. So say you want to play Latin music. That's another one, another style of music people like, Latin. But maybe you don't want the whole big band filling up the room. You just want to play like a Latin flamenco guitarist, you know. So all I do is I touch Latin, and then I choose a guitarist as my performer. Okay? So let's give them an introduction, and here our guitar player. Again, I can add drums anytime. So one thing to notice, now this is important, I'm going to take a break for a second from the rhythms, and I'm going to talk about something else, kind of this side of the instrument for a second. This is really important. You all have a very special button, a very important button, right in the center of your instruments, all of you. It's called Style Setup. If you have an Estey, it's called Auto Setup. It's the exact same thing. Because if you notice, anytime I pick a different type of music, what goes on the right side? A melody sound, right? For singing to. And it's always going to be something that goes with that type of music because your Style Setup button. I don't need to show you a picture. You can see it from there, maybe good enough. But there's a button right in the center. It just says Style Setup, and it's generally on. Right when you turn on the instrument, it just comes on. And all it's doing is the work. It's doing the work for you. So what happens is when you touch Latin guitarist even, since I'm playing a guitar-themed style, it's also going to put a guitar sound over here. It gives me a nice, clean electric guitar. If I do the Latin full band, since it's going to sound a lot more full, like this, ballroom Latin, it's going to automatically put something else. So isn't that great? That's why these are so fantastic to start with, is you pick who you want to play with, what type of music, and then your second part of it is all done for you. It picks out something to go with the band there. So you don't even have to think. You just sit down and play and have fun. That's the whole purpose of it. Virtual orchestra, okay? So I'm going to move on a little bit and talk about some more in-depth features. Does anyone have any questions so far? It's all pretty simple so far, not too complicated. But just keep that in mind. That's why these are so simple, is you can't do a lot wrong, and that's a good thing. Now, as you go up the line, walk up the line, you know, I know some of you on here have easy 4s or easy 10s, so let's talk about that for a minute. If you still have, you know, a Discovery 3, easy 1, easy 2, keep listening. You're going to learn something still. It's okay. I'm just going to scoot this over, so bear with me here. And this is where I get to find out if I'm going to fall over or not. Okay. So this, my friends here, well, this is my friend here. This is an Easy 4, one of my all-time favorites. This is actually, to be honest, one of the best values in all the instruments we have, because there's just such a lot on it. But it's still very basic and simple to use, like this Easy 2 I was just using. We've got the same type of panel here, where you have your rhythm styles and performers. Obviously, as you go up the line, do you get more or do you get less rhythms? More, of course. They're not going to take away. They don't take away anything. That's what's nice. So as I go up the line here, now they add a couple more buttons to the panel here. I have a new one of my favorites, called Traditional. And it just gives you a lot of good traditional styles of music. There's marches and polkas, so if I keep the full band sound, and we hear a lot of instruments in that, you're going to get a march/polka. You can use it for either. Sounds like this. Now, what's great is you see I have more than one keyboard. So it's an Easy 2 down here with an extra new sound up here. So I can go back and forth now with sounds it sets up automatically still, just like the other one. It automatically gave me an accordion. And then down here I get something else. Trumpet. Easy as that. So works the same as that last one. I just get more options. And what's great is a lot of people think, okay, well, if it's a whole other instrument and there are more buttons, it's going to be harder, right? There's going to be more stuff to learn, more stuff to deal with. But Lowry and Estey are both very smart, where they actually somehow are able to give us more options, the more we can do, and make it easier at the same time. What I mean by that is they add new features, which were pretty groundbreaking at the time when they came out. There's a button in the middle of this Easy 4 panel called Song Setup. Who has Song Setup? If you want to raise your hand if you have a camera on here. Okay, I think most of you. Good. Song Setup is, gosh, one of my all-time favorite features on any instrument. And the reason for that is very simple. I'm lazy, and I don't want to have to press a bunch of buttons. You know, some people have fun with that. It can be fun at times to, you know, tweak and customize every little thing as much as you can. But what's so much easier and faster is if I want to play a song, I put the music up, and I say, oh, how do I set this up? What do I do? You know, so for example, like the Alley Cat song. I like that one as an example, mostly because it starts with A. And your song setup list is alphabetical, so that works out. So when I touch Song Setup, if I don't know how to set up a song, what button do I press? You know, for Alley Cat song, what style of music would that be? You know, I wouldn't call it country. I wouldn't really call it, you know, Latin, or what else do I have? Rock? I don't know. So what I can do is I call this hiring my agent. You know, this is my orchestra. I hired them. But if I don't know which orchestra to use, I hire somebody else and say, hey, pick one for me. Ooh, even easier. So I go to the Song Setup, and I say, I want to play the Alley Cat song. Pick a rhythm for me. So I hit select, and not only did it pick a background rhythm, it set my tempo correctly for that song, and it also gave me a sound to use on the right hand up here and down here. So just for that one song, it does all that work for me. All I have to do is play. So here's the Alley Cat song a little bit, just so you get an idea. And remember, I didn't press any of these. I just picked the song from a list. Here we go. This is what it did. put a harmony on. So easy as that. It did all the setup work for me. It put honky tonk piano up here and a little cat down here. Or a big cat if you play the lower notes here. And what I did in the middle of that is I pressed one other button that you can press at any time, and it's going to make this right hand sound good. If you're playing one note, you have a button called harmony on here that's going to add extra notes. It's like giving you extra fingers. It's like plastic surgery. It just adds a finger that you don't have to control. It does it for you. So when you're playing these songs, let me turn down this stuff in the background here. Rather than have one note, I can have two. Or I can pick on the screen, I want 3 notes. And it's going to play basically a full chord for you on that right hand. So one of my favorite options, harmony. I see we have a question. Go ahead, Hal, you can unmute. I forgot to do this.
You say that this is your favorite feature. This is not one of my favorite.
Okay, which one? The song setup?
Can I ask you? A lot of times the virtual orchestra will pick out the setup for you, but are you locked in to use the one that it picks for you if you don't like it?
If you don't like it, you can set it up yourself just the same. If you know the buttons and you don't like that rhythm that it used, like that rhythm, it's kind of made for it. It's kind of a ragtime sound for that song. But if you want to I want to play it faster and with bigger sounds, you can, yeah, sure, pick a different band. But yeah, that song setup's still the same. You can't change the song setups, if that's what you mean. It's just a list that's just been done for you. You know, if you want, they do have instruments where you can save your work. They do have other ones, so. But that's where we go, up the line. They just keep adding things. So if it pertains to you, or if it's something like, wow, I wish I could do this, well, chances are you can on some of them.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But one thing I do like to do too is, just like I said, if you don't like the song setup, don't use it. That's okay.
Right.
This song also sounds good with, if you want like a full band sound, you can do the standards. Just pick out maybe a piano on your own. It's a little faster. So it just depends on what you like. But some of them, let me give you another thing you can do with the song setup. This is something I like to do because I'm kind of like that. I don't know all the songs in here sometimes, Sometimes I'll go through the song setup and say, like there's a song called Aloha Oi. I don't know that song very well. I mean, I know it, but I don't know how to play it. And maybe I want to play a different song, but I love this Hawaiian rhythm. Whoops, that's not Hawaiian, is it? I got to select it first. Here we go. Here's my Hawaiian. But I'm going to pick a different song to play. Totally different song, but it went with that song setup really well, right? That was Can't Help Falling in Love from, I think, Blue Hawaii, and it fits perfectly because the movie takes place in Hawaii, and it's Elvis Presley, so you got this really, really great rhythm to use for something that it didn't actually set me up for. It just works. So you can do that. It's actually kind of a fun challenge to go through your song setup list and say, ooh, I don't know if I know that song, but I love the sound of that, for example. And you can set it up to play that song and just play a different song, or make a medley. Start with that song and go to a different one. So, yeah. Any other questions so far? Anything I've talked about? Okay, that's either good or bad. Usually it means people are either paying attention very well and getting something out of it, or it means we're falling asleep. So hopefully that's not the case. I don't see anybody sleeping today yet, so that's good. That's really good. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do now. Let's see. Talked about song setup. I talked about that. I'll talk about one more feature on here that's pretty neat. You have a lot of song setups built in. You have harmonies you can add on, just adding extra things. And then you have a new button called Fake It. Now this is another one that some people say, I don't really use that, or some people say, I use it all the time, it's fun. And that's okay either way. For those of you who don't know what it is, it turns your keyboard here into a solo performer, a soloist, who generally will do like an improvised solo. You know, for example, let's put on the traditional guitarist button, which gives me kind of a nice jazz sound. You know, I'll show you, for example, what it sounds like, and start maybe playing a song. So this is Louis Armstrong. My clarinet. And typically there's a part of the song like here where you might hear an instrumental solo. And now who can improvise solos, either, you know, on your keyboards here or any instrument? Probably not many. It's a skill that takes a lot of years. You got to know what key you're playing in, make sure you don't hit any wrong notes. And what Fake It does, when I turn it on, it turns every key, even the yucky ones, into good notes to go with your chord. So if I just hit any key here now, I can play a solo. I get to play it on the bottom. Just like that. And all you have to remember is to turn it off when you're not using it, because that gets easy. If you have it on, it's not going to play the notes that you want then. If you're playing, you know, specific notes, it's going to fill in different ones. So it's always going to be a correct note, though. That's the important part. So you can't hit any wrong notes using that button. It's just a great tool to sound good. Like I said, it's important when you come from these, you know, smaller instruments like that or this. Generally, the reason people buy them in the first place is because they know that they're going to sound good and it's going to be fun. That's what we want. As you go along, obviously, like I said, there's a lot more customization features and things that are added on, not to make it harder, but to make it easier. You know, the harmony buttons, for example, on these two keyboard instruments, they usually add more of them, which means not any harder. It just adds more fingers to your hands automatically. You know, and the Fake It feature, things like that. Song setup makes it way easier. You know, that's so easy to use. You pick a song and you play it. It doesn't get any easier than that. So now let's go that way. I'm going to travel some more, because I do have another guy in this little tiny room that I'm in. I've got him way over here. Oh my goodness, what is that? Does anybody know what this instrument is here? Let's see if I can scoot things over a little bit. Okay, good enough, I think. That's what we look like right there. So this, I don't happen to have an Easy 10 at our store here. So I'm going to play on this one. It's very similar. just obviously, like I said with the rest of them, it's got more and more stuff. So if you do have an easy 10, this is a great, this will be a great part for you so you can learn something. I'm going to start off with this, though. Obviously, with every instrument, you get more stuff, like I said. This panel on this instrument, you can't quite see it, but it's actually exactly the same as an easy 10. So some people say, well, that's not anything new then, it's just the same stuff. But you have a button that says on a fanfare called Group 2. Does anybody have a fanfare in here? I know it's a super popular one. We sell out of them quickly. But the fanfare is fantastic because there is so much. Basically, it takes this whole panel and it multiplies it by 2. You get 2 types of every rhythm here. So 2 standard full bands, 2 standard guitarists, 2 So each button in here has 6 different rhythms. So 6 times 12 is 72. Yes. Okay, so you have a lot in here you can play with. So what's great is they have a lot of what are called signature styles now. And even in the Easy 10, you have a couple of these. Do you guys know what signature styles are? Can anybody tell me? Okay. Well, I'll tell you then. A signature style, if you want to write it down, you can. It is a style of music based on an original arrangement. So a style of music based on an original arrangement. For example, when I go to my standards full band, I just played with Frank Sinatra over here. Now I'm going to play with Benny Goodman because it's automatically going to give me a signature style now. Not just any big band or swing band, but Benny Goodman's. When I touch this second one, it gives me a rhythm called Smooth Foxtrot. And now it even tells me that on the screen. I know what the name of that rhythm is. It's called Smooth Foxtrot, and it's made for Benny Goodman's rendition of Begin the Beguine. So if you listen, you'll hear a lot of in-between background stuff happening, and it's to perfectly fit in between our melody notes. So let's listen here real quick. Hear all those backgrounds? So what's great about these instruments as well, if you have an Easy 10 or higher, they have buttons in the middle now. Okay, let me show you this so you can see it a little better. Oop, wrong one. Hold on a second. I had all these up on my screen here, and then everything closed. So here we go. So I talked about a button called Style Setup earlier with the Easy 2 and 4. Now, if we're on an Easy 10, or really any instrument higher than that, you still have your Style Setup button, and it does the same thing. It gives you a sound, melody sound to use on your right hand on the upper and lower keyboard. Now, all it does with these numbers in the center, some of the instruments have these, a lot of them do, they're called setups. They are extra style setups. For example, rather than just have one sound to play with on the top and bottom, now, if I touch these numbers 1 through 5, this is, like I said, for an Easy 10. Like, for example, if I go to number 5, you know, it'll light up, and it'll give me a completely different sound on the top and bottom keyboard. And then if I change it to a different one, gives me a completely different, another sound on the top and the bottom. And each of these sounds go with that style setup, and they're going to sound good with your rhythm. For example, let's see, what was my example I was going to use? Let's see. Let's talk about what type of rhythm here. I guess that one I was just doing for just a quick example. The smooth foxtrot, I had automatically a clarinet and a saxophone. Now, if I want something else, if I want the sound to be bigger, I can go through these numbers and find something else, and it'll automatically sound good. So if I start out and I press a different number, now I can play with things like a flute, or I can go up on the top. Ooh, vibes. Trombone. Muted trumpet, really cool. Organ. Strings. And if I go to my highest number, it's always going to be the biggest sound you have. So you get your biggest sound as you go through them. But they're all going to go, that's what I love, they're all going to go with the rhythm you're using. So a lot of the time, if you see us, any staff members or people playing concerts, either on Zoom or at a local store, if you have one there, what happens is we use those all the time. And it's because it's easier to use than, in the past, if you had, at some point, Easy 2, or a Discovery 3, something like that. The reason, like I said, it's so easy and sounds so good is you can't do a lot to mess up. It gives you a sound, you're good to go. Now, what these do, like I said, is they just add on to it. So if you like the way you sound but you want other options, that's where these come in handy. And when we're playing concerts, rather than going through your sound library up here, so over here you have just all the sounds in the instrument, just kind of hard to find and kind of all over. So this is a shortcut. It's taking the best sounds from over here, putting them in these numbers, so you don't have to think, okay, let's see, I want a guitar, but I don't want that guitar. I want this guitar. And you don't have to do all that. You go through, find a rhythm you want, kind of work left to right. For example, you pick a rhythm, pick a number 1 through 10, and as you're playing the song, you can keep picking different numbers, and it's going to go with it, no matter what the rhythm. Here's another one that's on the EZ10 called Opener. This is for if you like big Broadway type music. So this is in my Broadway button. I'm just going to go through these sounds. Let's try something else. Let's transpose. Sounds again. So you have an entire orchestra now, not just one sound to use, but you can kind of, as the band leader, pick out different performers as you go along, just like you see at a real live orchestra. You'll see the conductor doing this, and then he usually does that. Then you see the trumpet player stand up, or, as I had a clarinet for a bit, or piano player, organist, whatever you have, you can just say, I want you next. Just pick a number. That's great. And as I said, my favorite thing on these instruments are signature styles. That's another thing I love. So it works for all of these different types of rhythms. So if you're on your country music, but not just any country music, maybe you love Floyd Kramer. Do you know who that is? Some of you might. He's a kind of a country piano player. Little kind of had jazzy country sound to me. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. But he had a great sound that was very unique. And what happens is if I touch country pianist on these instruments, not only do I get, the same as I might get on there, but I have another option for a signature style called Floyd piano. And it actually not only hires any old band, but it hires Floyd Kramer's original band. So it sounds like this now. I'm going to add the drums. There we go. So I get to play with Floyd Kramer now. So that's one feature that I think is just great, to be able to play with your favorite artists. You play their signature sounds with their signature styles, and it's like you're in the room with them. I have one great story of doing this actually at one point. There's a rhythm made for Glenn Miller. I don't know if you guys know who that is there, but he was very famous. He played a lot of swing and big band type music, but he had a song called Moonlight Serenade. And there was one time I was playing that song on one of these instruments, and there's a signature style for that, so it sounds exactly like the original when you play it. And I was playing it for a nice lady I know here. And I was just playing it. I was getting into it. I looked over, and she was crying. And I was like, oops. I said, I'm sorry. You want me to should I stop? And she said, no, that was the song I first danced to with my husband. The first time I ever met him. And she was just feeling emotional about it because it took her right back, because it sounded exactly like the original. And she said, I would give anything to be able to play that. That was like our song. And he had since passed away. But that was the song she really wanted to learn, and she couldn't, handle how great it sounded. It sounded just like the original and really moved her. And I think that's super important. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It could be a positive thing to it's almost like time traveling, with these instruments. You can kind of listen to some of your favorite artists and even play along with them now with just the touch of a button, and it just kind of makes you feel, really, really good on the inside. So I love those feelings. There's another example I'll play in a second. Actually, I'll just show you here. Speaking of Glenn Miller, let's do this as an example. I'm not going to play that song because it's a little slow. Let's do one of his more upbeat ones. There's a rhythm in this Journey here that I'm using called Swing Band. And that's actually made to go with Glenn Miller's music. And what happens is there's a whole other button on this journey instrument. So this is kind of above and beyond an easy 10 or fanfare. I'm just going to show it to you because we talk about this in a lot of the other classes. So just kind of put it into perspective what it does. There's a button on a lot of instruments called alter style. Have you heard of that? Some people are saying, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. This is a great button, actually, because it takes every single rhythm style that you have, and it kind of almost times it by 2. It gives you another option for every rhythm, where it doesn't change the band. It's still the same backing band, but you're telling them to do something different. Okay? For example, if I have my swing band, that one goes really, really well with In the Mood. So right when I start it, you'll hear it. That's for In the Mood, and it sounds absolutely perfect. Now, if I turn on alter style, this is kind of one option that you can do. If I turn on alter style, it takes Glenn Miller's band, and I'm saying, hey, Glenn, let's do a different one, though. And then you can play something like this, Tuxedo Junction. You know that song? Here we go. Now listen to the background. Isn't that cool? I can take and tell Glenn, let's play a different song. And it actually arranges all that background to go with something else. So for that example, it went with Tuxedo Junction perfectly. So you go from this kind of more upbeat, pushy style, like this, for In the Mood, to the alter style, a little bit softer, for something a little more mellow, like Tuxedo Junction. And that's just one example. I can use it in the middle of a song. You know, I can start with it off and turn it on at any time, or I can start with it on and turn it off at any time, which is just great because it takes that same band and just tells them to do something else. Let's see. For example, actually, I'll save that for my closing number. That's what I'll do. I'm going to talk about one more thing, and then I'll do a closing song on the way out here. But first, what I wanted to mention is I talked about song setup earlier. One thing that's great, obviously, you might know, is as you go up the line, things like that, different instruments like this, coming from something like an easy 4 or 10, you have tons and tons of song setups. And, even better, you know, how, like if there's something that you say, oh, I don't like the song setup for that one, they use different rhythms as you go up the line as well, because obviously this has a lot more in it than, say, an easy 2, for example. So it's going to use the best rhythms it possibly can for each song. So in here, and typically if it has one, it'll use a signature style. One of my absolute favorites, there's a song setup for the song Unforgettable. And it actually brings up the best rhythm in most of the instruments. It'll make you melt. The rhythm is called Unforgotten. So if I take the music here and I play the song Unforgettable exactly as written and I just play through it, if you listen to the background, it's going to sound exactly like the original song. just like I said with that Moonlight Serenade. So I'm going to do this, and I might as well just switch to this one since I have it there. Oops, it's not connected anymore. Must have turned itself off. Oh well. But if I play this exactly as written, I get a perfect sound for Unforgettable. Just listen to the backgrounds. Press a different button here. I have strings now. Best part. Just like the original. I love that. Love the backgrounds in that one. But there's just loads and loads of these. If you're curious about any of the instruments I've talked about, you can check them out. What's cool is now that we use YouTube and things like that, you're welcome to look up things about EZ4, the EZ10, the Fanfare or Journey. Those are two of my favorites, actually. People say that all the time, what their favorites are, because there are so many, but they really are, because the Fanfare, and especially the Journey right here, it has a ridiculous amount of stuff in it, lots of things, lots of options, but it's easy. It's easy to use. It's not too big. I run into that all the time. I'm not a big person, so I like the smaller ones here like this. So it packs a lot of punch in a smaller cabinet size. You even have a little cover here. Looks classy. Actually, this one must be new. It's still got plastic on that cover protecting it. But I'm going to play one more song to end the show here, and I'm going to use a few of the things I talked about. A signature style. I'm going to use the altar style in the song as well. And we'll just have a good time. So any questions before I wrap up? Okay, I don't see any questions. So I'm going to play a song called Mack the Knife. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a rhythm in here that's called McSwing, like Mack swing, Mack the Knife swing, McSwing. And what it's going to do, it's going to have a perfect rhythm for that. You're going to listen to the background in this one. It evolves. They kind of add more and more, I guess, computer memory and things like that to these instruments. So if you listen to the background, it's going to be changing the entire time and going with whatever I'm doing, which is just awesome. So here's McSwing and Mack the Knife. Here's our intro. Aldrich style. There we go. So there's Mack the Knife, and there is our class. We walked up the line. We started with easy 2 to easy 4. We didn't have an easy 10, but we worked with it. And you got a little bit of a taste of the fanfare journey type instruments that look like this. So hopefully you have a good understanding of our product line a little bit, just how they work. So
Excellent, Sean. Excellent.
Very nice. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Well, have a good rest of your day, everybody. If you need anything, talk to your personal assistant if you have one. If you don't have one, get one. We're free. So come on and give us a call. At any store, go to our website. Look us up. Find our numbers. Call me and bug me. I just had a call just 10 minutes ago from somebody. I have no idea who they are. And they said, I looked you up. So I said, great. So feel free. So have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.